All right, before getting into all the different ways to quantify training stress, I just want to clarify that these are all arbitrary units of measurement. They all have limitations. Some are more complex or less complex than others, which in my opinion is actually a good thing, as it allows the user to determine which one is most practical for them. But at the same time, they're really not that complex at all. I think they're all really easy to understand once you start using them. It'll just take several training blocks to get a real picture of what these figures mean to you in your specific context. One last caveat that I want to state in advance is that you can't compare these figures across all exercises. For some of the equations that take reps in reserve into consideration, you may see higher stress scores for something like a lying triceps extension compared to a back squat, because you can take a lying triceps extension closer to failure for more consecutive sets than you can for a back squat. And obviously, a back squat at 80% taken to 3 reps in reserve will be more systemically stressful than a lying triceps extension performed with a higher relative load taken closer to failure. So all of these figures must be interpreted in their proper context. And none of these figures have been used in any meaningful research. This is largely conjecture. But without further ado, here are 4 methods of providing a metric for quantifying the magnitude of stress applied via strength training. So the first method of quantifying training stress is what I'm calling raw magnitude of stress. This is the sum of the weight used for all of your working sets of an exercise or for a training session divided by the total number of working reps. So if you performed 3 working sets at 405, 425, and 440, and all of your sets were sets of 5, you would add 405, 425, and 440 for a grand total of 1270. Then you would divide 1270 by 15 because that's the number of working reps you performed, which comes out to be 1245 divided by 15 is 84.6. So this is just what I'm calling the raw magnitude of stress. This is a really simple one. It doesn't require you to input reps in reserve or RPE. It's just the objective work done across all sets of a given exercise. The second means of quantifying training stress is absolute volume load. Other people call this tonnage. This is actually somewhat popular, but this figure is just weight times reps plus weight times reps plus weight times reps. This is the sum of all the weight lifted from your sets of an exercise or a training session. You just calculate it by multiplying the weight on the bar by the number of reps performed and doing that for each set that's performed, then adding that value across all sets completed. So using the same set and rep scheme from before, 3 sets of 5 at 405, 425, and 440, you should end up with an absolute volume load of 6,350. This one is easy as it's just using absolute load, so you're not factoring percentage of 1 rep max or effort level via reps in reserve. All right, so the third means of quantifying training stress is relative volume load. This is using a percentage of your 1 rep max. Relative volume load is a way to capture how much work you do, so the total number of working reps, and how heavy each rep is expressed as a percentage of your 1 rep max. To calculate the relative volume load, we use the following formula. Relative volume load equals the sum of the weight in each set divided by your 1 rep max times reps in a set. Here's an example for you to help you get the picture. Let's say you have an estimated 1RM of 500 pounds on the back squat. You performed 3 working sets of 5 reps, set 1 at 405, set 2 at 425, and set 3 at 440. These are all very reasonable yet challenging sets of 5. That final set at 440 is 88%, so a set of 5 is actually kind of a reach. We'll keep the numbers the same just for consistency's sake. So again, an estimated 1RM of 500. So set 1 is 5 reps at 405. So you go 405 divided by 500 for your percentage. Multiply that by 5. That's a figure of 4.05. Set 2 is 5 reps at 425. So 425 divided by 500 for your percentage. Multiply that by 5 reps. That's 4.25. Set 3 is 5 reps at 440, so 440 divided by 500 multiplied by 5 reps, that's 4.4. Finally, find the sum of these values. 4.05 plus 4.25 plus 4.4 gives you a value of 12.7. What this tells you is it provides you an intensity adjusted rep count. Higher percentage of 1 rep maxes are weighted more heavily, so in a sense more stressful. So it captures the relative load demands better than just counting the reps of the absolute load. Some of the limitations to this is that it doesn't incorporate proximity to failure. All right, now last method of quantifying training stress is what I'm calling the stress index. This is a metric that factors in all of the following variables: total working reps, relative load, and reps in reserve. So it's basically tying reps in reserve into the previous equation we just talked about. So stress index equals the sum of the percentage of 1 rep max times reps times a factor of reps in reserve. So sets taking closer to failure in this, so lower reps in reserve, end up contributing to a higher multiplier and ultimately leading to a higher stress index figure. So it explicitly combines intensity, working reps, and your proximity to failure. You can compare sessions or progress over time with this single number that in theory accounts for the main drivers of hypertrophy and strength. So example here, 3 sets of 5 reps at 405, 425, and 430, and you can see those reps in reserve on the screen with an estimated 1 rep max of 515. So set 1 is 405. That equals 81% by 5 reps. times the factor of the reps in reserve, which is 3, that gives you a figure of 4.9. Set 2, 425, so 82% by 5 reps, times the factor of reps in reserve, which is 2, that's 5.5. Set 3 is 440, so 85% times 5 reps, times the factor of reps in reserve, which is 1, that gives you a figure of 6.4. Then you take the sum of those 3 figures, 4.9, 5.5, and 6.4, that gives you a figure or value of 16.9. So like I said, guys, none of these metrics are perfect. They all have limitations. They don't account for everything. They don't account for duration of set, range of motion, tempo, or there's plenty of things that they don't account for. But you can gather some really useful information with all of these methods and use them to plan out future training sessions and track progress over time. It just takes some time getting familiar with whatever metric you decide to use and understanding how to interpret the values in the proper context. There are some other ways to attempt to quantify training stress that I like. Maybe I'll dive deeper into some of those in the near future, but I just want to leave it at those 4 for now. Let me know what you think about these, or if you have any questions about them. Maybe I can clarify some things in future videos. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next video.